Hey, horror fans, we are back with another film review, and this month I've got another London horror film, which is a first watch for Chris, but of course it's a favorite of mine. He said he wanted a classic, and instead of going Hammer, I went with a Pete Wlaker film. So very sort of cool, very 70s, very Mary Whitehouse would hate this kind of film. If you're British, that makes sense. If you're American, it's basically the censors hated it. This is the 1974 Frightmare. So if you haven't seen the film, essentially in 1957, a tarot card reader named Dorothy kills and eats her clients. She gets locked up along with her very supportive husband in an insane asylum. But 15 years later, they are released and seemingly rehabilitated. But why is their oldest daughter bringing them bloody packages? Why are they hiding from their youngest daughter? And can we trust Dorothy when she starts reading cards again? And this film was in 74, so there's going to be all sorts of spoiler alerts. Just beware.
There's no spoiler alerts missions ago.
Right? So, Chris, just first off, what was your first impression of this film since you hadn't seen it before?
My first impression of the film was it's 70s and it's confusing.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't mean it in a bad way. I just meant like, yes, it is 70s. So like, and I was prepared for that, but I watched it twice. The first part, there were questions I had as things that weren't being answered. And I was like, I'm going to have to watch this again. And I think it's just because, like you said, there's two girls. I don't know how they're related, why are they talking with these older people? There's the older couple. I like the fact that you said very supportive husband, because if your wife is eating people and you take the fall for it and you go to prison too, like, and you wouldn't do anything for it, you're just protecting her. It's pretty supportive. Pretty supportive.
Yeah.
So, but I did like it because I actually thought, for being a little bit older, it definitely had creepiness to it throughout. Like I was when I was watching it, especially the second time, like I knew what was kind of coming, just the big parts, but it just had this like level of like grit to it, and I enjoyed that when I'm watching the movie like that. It just kind of made me feel uneasy, which is hard when you're watching horror movies. Like if you don't feel uneasy, you're already not going to be scared or not be anything. So I didn't think it was like a boo gotcha horror movie, but definitely a thriller, and like, yeah, I thought it was good. I was a good pick.
Thank you. I really liked it. I know what you mean. When I first watched it, I had to watch it a second time again because I learned this as I watched more Pete Wlaker movies, but so many people put it on the video nasties list here because it's like, oh, it's really bloody, really gory. And so you get a lot of reviews that are like, oh, it's just, barely strung together plot to get some gore. And I think the first time you watch it, you probably think that because it's really confusing. But then if you go back and watch his movies again, they're like crazy subtle, and there's all sorts of weird psychology going on. But he has what appears to be this rule that I've noticed is like, if it's been said once already, I'm never telling you again. So if this, like, for example, with the daughters was the confusing thing for me. There are these two daughters of the cannibal couple, let's say. It's really the woman, but her husband's cool.
We can call them a couple. Yep.
So the first time I watched it, I wasn't sure. I thought they were sisters, but I wasn't 100% sure what was going on with the parents because it seemed in the end like they were treating the girls differently, and I didn't get it. I was like, what's going on? And then you have to watch it again, and in like a half a second clip while two other doctors, other people on set are talking to each other, like, oh, the first daughter, Jackie, who's the oldest, yes, and the doctor goes, yes, the stepdaughter, that's actually from his previous marriage. And then they never mention it again. And so unless you paid a lot of attention to that specific moment, their relationship is really confusing. And what makes it worse for me is that in the end, they treat the two daughters very, very differently. I'll give the spoilers away. They kill one of the daughters. And I was like, what? Why? I don't understand. And you have to kind of watch it. I mean, even twice, it's horrible. And that's one of the most horrible scenes in the movie is at the end of the movie, and she looks to her dad and is like, Daddy, help me. And he doesn't.
He's a supportive husband.
Yeah. And this is the thing is you have to, it's not better, but you realize that what they've done is they've chosen their child, the two crazy people had together, as it were, the insane asylum couple had together. They've chosen that child over the child from his previous marriage.
Yep.
And that's still totally horrible, but at least like you get what's happening a little bit more. Because the mother is siding with her kid and doesn't care about the other kid, which is
Yep.
awful, but like you at least kind of get it a bit more. It's, I don't know, I found that the
Well,
worst
you've seen
part.
that story 1,000 times. I mean, Cinderella, like, I mean, it goes back forever, but like, yeah, it, I think the first time I watched it, I'm like, what is that? Like, what? She's been going over and talking to these people. She's bringing them packages. Like, it's like, what is going on? Like, why did he did nothing? He did nothing. Like, you're watching it like, so I let it digest a couple of days and watched it again. And I'm like, okay, because they do in the beginning of the movie when they show the younger daughter or the younger sister, she's like a psychopath, and they do try to make that pretty clear where she likes violence and she tries to get people going at each other, right? And like, there's a scene in the very beginning of the movie, I guess, that her boyfriend and his biker pals, like they go to this place and like he's already like high strung and ready to fight whoever, and she just needs to nudge him, and she has more than happy to nudge him, but they always show her like a big smile on her face when this is happening. So like she's crazy,
Yeah.
but it was. I also learned like I can't call people tarts. Apparently that's a bad word in the '70s to call somebody. I don't know what it means, but yeah. So it was, but I laughed at that part. So that's where the '70s part comes in, where I'm just like, oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that it would be completely different if it was made today. It'd be he called me something else, but
It'd be like a whore.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I kind of got to that because the guy obviously didn't. They show that scene, and then you know that she's just ready to get people, like she just wants chaos.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was Pete Walker. I mean, it was my first Pete Walker experience, right? So I will definitely watch more of his stuff. It was definitely interesting to me, and I, like I said, the way it was shot and the way that they went through the movie, it told us like you could watch it without really knowing what was going on, but then like there were scenes that you're like, this is a put your phone down. To me, this is a put your phone down and really like
Mhm.
watch the movie, because you like you said, if you miss it, they're not coming back to it.
Yeah, I love this film. I'm glad you like it because I think it's Pete Walker's films are all really, really, I think, well done because they're tight like that. You the movie flows and you can like really, really watch it really easily. It's got something going on constantly. It's full of action. There's not like slow moments. Something's happening in every scene. So it's really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the reason I love this film, this is like gonna sound way more soppy than it should, is it's kind of a story about love as well in a really sick way. In a really sick way, I can see your face. But like, I think that makes it that little extra interesting because in the '70s, you think about all the like '70s slashers and giallo films. It's a lot of like sexual violence is a big part of it. Not literally rape, but like there's this connection between sexuality and violence. In giallo films, it is very much something to do with sexuality or somebody's confused sexuality in the sort of let's say, you know, Jason films, if teenagers are having sex and that mad
Yep.
repressed mom
Okay.
blames
Yeah.
that, you know, it's all tied up in that. And then you have this film where it's like very unhealthily, this couple is crazy in love with each other. The wife, Dorothy, this is the older couple, Dorothy and Edmund are their names for the people watching. Dorothy is now much older, but he's so devoted to her. Like you said, he went to an insane asylum. He was sort of fine with her being a cannibal for however long, and she started doing it again, and he's really upset. But he even says to like Jackie, to his daughter, I love her, you have to understand that. Dorothy uses it to manipulate him in the most obvious way. She practically winks to the camera and she's like, oh, but I can't help myself. It's
Yeah.
like so cheesy. But he's so manipulated by his love for her. And then Dorothy weirdly has this deep, deep love for Debbie, for her daughter, the actual young
Yeah.
daughter, and feels this great connection because both of them love sadism and violence and blood and tearing people apart even after they're dead, which is super creepy. And so like there's a lot of really, really unhealthy, but there's a lot of like love in the story, and it's like weirdly a story about family. It's a terrifying story about family if you're a half sibling. I'm so sorry. This must be like, what the hell for you? Why is my half sister showing me this film? But I don't know. It was so much more deep in family and love than a lot of the other 70s slashers. So I thought
Okay.
it's quite cool. And even for Pete Walker's films, I think there's a lot more of that to it than House of Whipcord is about sadism towards people they think are being sexually free. So it's like a little bit more in keeping with the time.
I wonder if that's why I found it more creepy in a subconscious level, like in a level I wasn't really like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, yeah, you're right. There was no reasoning behind the madness, for instance. Like you were saying, like Jason's mom in the Friday the 13th kicks it off because the counselors let her kid drown, right? Because they were too busy flirting and frolicking, right? This is just like, these people are freaking nuts. Like they're just crazy. I also, so they talk about the younger daughter, who is the daughter of Edmund and Dorothy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've been in contact, but she went to an orphanage. But they never really say when she finds out that that's her parents and still talking to them. Or did they?
Not exactly. So you know, this might be maybe watched 3 times. I've seen it 10. Maybe 10 is the magic number. I don't know. So
yeah, I must have missed this part. I'm like, wait a minute.
It's not they don't totally clarify. So you don't have like a specific time, but when Edmund and Dorothy were in the asylum, Dorothy was pregnant and at some point gave birth to this child who they took immediately to the orphanage. She got thrown out of the orphanage and Jackie started taking care of her. And Jackie, who's the older sister, promised her dad, Edmund, so not Dorothy, that she would always keep Debbie hidden so that they didn't get together, exactly to avoid what happens in the end. We know by the end of the film that once the family get together, that Debbie and Dorothy must have been talking since Debbie got out. So that's only been in the past few months, according to the storyline. So we don't know exactly when, but basically she grew up in this orphanage. She got thrown out, must have started looking for her parents. In the meantime, her parents get released. And then the mom and Dorothy and Debbie start talking. Yeah. So it's not like a perfect timeline, but it is weird because you're like, why were you in an orphanage?
That was the thing that I think was distracting to me, like at least until I got over that. So that's why a second watch was so important, is that there's so much where it's like, why is this happening? Or where did this come from? Or what? But I really enjoyed it. Like I really thought it moved well. The moved fast. Like for the mid 70s, like I thought it was intense.
One of the things that I love about it and that I think is really not necessarily unusual, but like surprising in what you think of as a video nasty film of a 70s film is there is gore and special effects, but it's like in very tight, small moments. You get to see at the very beginning, you see the first victim, a flash to the side of his face. It's in black and white, so it's not super gory. And then you see, I think it's 2 other victims, if I'm remembering correctly. It might be 3. Oh, you kind of see the girl, but she's not bloodied. But you see 2 other men who've been sort of brutalized, and that's it. But you're freaked out the whole time. It's tense. It's uncomfortable. They have a lot of fantastic shots of Dorothy, who's played by Sheila Keith. She's in a couple other Pete Walker films. You have her like gleefully holding this drill, and you don't see anything, but it's like a really creepy moment. They did such a good job of having that mix.
I thought so too. Yeah, and she's absolutely horrifying. Like, I don't know like how they don't have Frightmare 9 and it's just still her. Like she is terrifying to me. Like, and I don't know, like maybe it's because when I see like as an American, like as you know, I see these older British ladies, I just feel like so sweet and like motherly and like this, and like she's just not that. Like she is that, but then she definitely like you Two-Face. You turn this way and all of a sudden it's like the drill scene was, and you're just like, whoa. So yeah, no, it's great. Now as a London, so when we started doing the podcast, like we were really picking movies that were like London based, right?
Yeah.
And I thought this was pretty cool because I read a little bit afterwards. Like it was shot entirely on location, where it wasn't any kind of studio. So it was either in Shepherd's Bush or in Surrey. So like the
Yeah.
very first scene is very iconic. Like even if you don't know what it's called, like in America, you've seen the four-pillared Battersea power station.
Yeah.
And then you were saying we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but you were saying that there used to be like a fright fair or not fright fair, a circus that was like permanent fixture there.
Yeah, it was called Battersea Fun Fair.
Okay, they just a black shot in black and white at a circus, a fun fair, a carnival where there's nothing going on at the. It's creepy. Like carnivals are creepy. Like it's like turning the club on and like the lights on after a night at the club. You're like, whoa, this is not where I was, you know. But like, I think walking through that was like a creepy shot of just you just hear his footsteps, and he's walking through that fair in the very beginning, going to get his tarot readings, I guess.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That was such a, you're right. That's such a great shot. And it felt, because it's black and white, to me, that also felt like a very 50s, almost Alfred Hitchcock. You see this
Hmm.
guy walking the streets, like third man almost. And then he knocks on this door and it creeps open. And then the next time we see him, he's dead. Felt very 50s.
I liked how they did how they showed. I mean, you knew he was dead. I mean, obviously, I'm watching a movie called Frightmare, so I'm like, he's probably dead. But the fact that they never show who did it, and they just show like that they're into witchcraft or like that. Like this is kind of some of the pictures that are they're basically at this trailer, right? Like that's where the trailer at the end of this fun fair, and he's like, "Oh, you told me to come back if I needed more help or needed something." So, and then they show him just sitting there, eyes open, and he's just sitting there like stunned. It almost looks like. And then, like, as the camera pans, you hear somebody behind the camera walk out the door, and you see their feet walking. And then, because they've shut the door, like he gets jostled and then turns, and you see like not a very like clean eater she is. I mean, like it was just like some bits here. Like she didn't really like prepare it well at all. She just was like chomp, chomp, chomp. Okay, I'm done. And then she just wasted a ton of food. Like if you're gonna be cool, go all in.
She needs a proper freezer. Is she, she needed somewhere to store the body. Because, like,
That's
I
very
get it. You're
true.
not going to do a whole person in one meal. That's a lot.
That's a lot. But like, are you gonna go here? Like, I mean, I'm a bigger guy. Like, I don't know. This isn't a lot of meat. Like, there's other parts of my body that are gonna be way more filling.
Was that for you the best, like, shock reveal of gore then? Or did you like some of the other ones later on better?
Um, I kind of like that one. I mean, it was it's black and white, and so like, it doesn't. It wasn't just like blood for blood's sake. Like you knew, like that. Like I thought it was pretty cool that they were able to do that. Like any of the special effects like that for that time frame. But I like that one. I mean, like I said, her holding the drill, like going in, and then the end scene are the most terrifying to me, where she's like asking her dad for help, and then he's just like, "Sorry." Like, sorry? Like, I don't even think he said sorry, but like, and it was
I
like,
guess.
yeah, I was like, oh, thanks.
I think that to me is by far the scariest scene, and I think it's because it's father daughter. But they if you look at the way they shot it, they also do a really cool job with the lighting in there. They're like in the upper bit of this farmhouse, and it's because of the beams or whatever. There's a lot of like the cross shadows, and like you see
Oh
her
yeah.
backing up in the light. Like they did quite a lot of cool stuff with lighting in that scene.
No, it's definitely very well done. Like, as the first time I'm watching, I'm like, okay, like we'll see how this goes because it's black and white. I just see his feet, but then it's like I start getting into, you start getting into it, and just the way they shoot it at all, like it is very interesting. There's a lot of dark. It's very interesting to watch older movies and how they do on locations shoots in nighttime.
Mm.
Because like when they're at the club, like the clubs are definitely very dark with like light, disco music lighting, but you have to obviously light up the bartender and so and like. But I thought they did a good job with that too. Like it didn't like distract from it. It kind of made it look like, hey, the bar's lit up, so you can
Mm.
see who you're ordering from or whatever. But like when they're on the dance floor or they're on the like I guess you played pinball. I guess it's a disco club with a pinball machine in the back. I haven't seen one of those before, but they're like, but it's darker and you don't really see like. So you could tell it was on location, but it made it feel more real to me. Like it, I liked it. I mean, the way it was shot was definitely captivating to me.
Yeah. One of the things you're right is cool to watch is that they make the most of each location as well. You know,
Yeah.
they haven't just been like, oh, we're choosing an isolated house. They chose like a really cool farmhouse that looks kind of old and creepy and has a big fire. It's got the witchy vibes that suit the
Oh yeah.
tarot. And the club is then like it's kind of you're right, it's a bit of a weird club. It's got the bar, the dance floor, the pinballs, but it kind of feels like young and cool and
Hmm.
70s, and they picked these spots out really really well. By far though, one of the ones that I thought was like the not the best, but that was like I thought used really cool is that they chose to have her, and it's for a minute and a half of a scene. They chose to have Jackie, the older daughter, work at BBC TV as a makeup artist. So you get to cut to like this gruesome black eye and a gash, and then it's just her doing the makeup. And that was quite a cool gag. And you don't need her to be working at BBC TV Central, but they throw her in there to give you that extra like, oh, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, that I didn't even catch that until you just said it. I mean, I remember seeing the scene. I didn't really put it together like that. But yeah, it's I it was just well done all the way around. Like, and obviously, I not one that I think would ever be remade, movie wise. But like, I think people should watch it. I especially if it goes on like the video nasties list. Like, if it's on one of those, like, it kind of gives you a really good understanding. It's not like anything I've seen really before. I mean, I'm sure there's things like it, but I thought it was super original, which is really hard to say when watching horror movies, right? Like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
there's only really so much you can do, and I think they really did a great job with it.
That's quite cool. And I think as well, there's not that many. Everybody loves the like old people are creepy storyline, but they don't have very
Yes.
many older cannibal stories. I was thinking about this. I don't know why. We must like young cannibals. Fine young cannibals. Sorry, that was terrible. But older cannibals is not a very common one. I thought that was kind of
No.
original.
Well, it's funny because if you told somebody, "Hey, I got this movie and it's about an older cannibal," and not that's not what you would give away from the movie. Like, so it's but my first question would be like, well, how did old people get young people close enough to them to die? Like, because like just walk away fast, like or move real quick, and then they're not super strong. Like, when you get older, you get more frail, and that's just what happens. But the fact that this tarot card reading was bringing them, in, and then the help of the husband. So yeah, like it was. She's just psychotic, and being older makes it even creepier.
Yeah, it does totally.
Because I can
There's
totally see a 6-year-old eating people, a 6-year-old
oh yeah.
cannibal. Like, I totally see it. Like, you just see like, oh, what happened to your shin? Oh, little Timmy. Like, like I totally get it. What happened to you? Oh, Dorothy. Like, what?
That's the thing, isn't it? In kindergarten, or at least when I was at a kids museum, you'd have kids biting other kids all the time. I was like, oh my god, stop biting each other.
Oh, it's definitely a phase that little kids go through, right? Someone just told
Actually,
Dorothy not to stop. They were just like, hey,
is
do it
there
in hidden.
a non-zombie children cannibal movie? I think you just came up with something really cool.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I know. I can't name one off the top of my head, but maybe.
Filmmaker friends, one of you. No, wait, I'll do it. None of you can.
Okay.
No,
Said
no,
it here
it's such a
first.
good idea.
Yeah, no, you could totally. There's got to be, right? Like,
I
no, well, I guess there's not, because you think of all the serial killer stuff, and everybody's always like they're killing people, but
yeah, that's
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think they're cannibals. I think they're just killing animals, or they're just kill like. I know there's like movies where like, was it The Good Son with like Macaulay
Macaulay
Culkin,
Culkin.
but he's not cannibal by any means.
No, it just likes killing other
Just
kids.
like killing other kids. which
And like the Omen, that kid doesn't, well, like that kid doesn't really kill anyone, but he doesn't eat anybody, even though he's the devil.
I think you could really make a killer
Killer.
cannibal.
I'm on this. I am gonna write the script. I'm so excited. There you
You
go.
can make it. You can make it a comedy horror, and like the kid is so little, so he
Like
can't eat.
baby.
He can't eat them. He can't eat them fully. So like they still live, and they're just like bites just taken out of them, and they're just like, well, what happened? And he's like, well,
No, yeah, well, I
he
can't
got
kill a
full.
baby.
Yeah, oh, you can kill a baby. I mean, like, let's just face it. That scene in Zombies vs. Comedies when he punts that baby is still one of my favorite scenes because I'm like, they just said, what can you not do in movies? Like, you never kill a baby, you never. And he was like, nope, boop,
Let's do that.
just punch him. Yep. So, yeah, no, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so summing it up, then I think we both would recommend this movie.
Yeah.
Where would we put it? I think it's way above Dagger. So, but like if we had the imaginary whiteboard, it wouldn't be like just above
there
Dagger.
will be a real
like
whiteboard
space.
at some point. We see each other this summer, and maybe we can put that together while we'll have some drinks and we'll put together the board, and then we can start kind of showing it when we do reviews. I'm going to put it above Dagger for sure. I was trying to think if I liked it better than Frenzy, and I think I like Frenzy better.
That surprises me. You like Frenzy better. I think you liked Frenzy.
As time goes on, I think I look back because I'll go to like my Prime movies and I'll see I purchased Frenzy, and I see it. I'm like, you know what? Like that was a cool scene, or like I start like thinking back to it. I still don't like the everybody's dead like in a comedic way. But now that I've been watching more, I think of like dated movies like the 70s, like where it's very much like that doesn't get into my head as much, like where now I'm like watching the story. So, but I think they're like right here. Like it could be on a day that I like today, this weekend I have Frenzy here, but like also Frenzy was way down here when I first saw it, and now it's moved up. So this might actually overtake it at some point. So yeah, but I think it's definitely better than Dagger, unfortunately. I mean, is what it is.
Yeah. No, fair. I think that's good. Excellent.
There was no TikTok in this movie.
Yeah. And I think it was more gripping throughout, whereas I thought Dagger was uneven. I thought the second half had more than the first.
Yes, 100%. This was, like I said, it for an hour and 28 minutes, hour and a half, like it flew by.
Yeah.
Like it was not one that you're like, man, how long have we been sitting here? Is this about to wrap up? Like, no, like there's some movies that you are like that, where you're just like after an hour, I'm like, all right, man, are we gonna get to like the climactic scene? Because I'm ready to do something else. Where like this movie, I was like, oh, it's over. Like it just kept ramping up, and yeah, it was good. I actually like the fact that the boyfriend or the pseudo boyfriend or whatever, one of the group of friends is a psychiatrist.
Graham.
And then he goes to psychoanalyze the girl and is all in on her. He's like, yeah, you should just try talking to her like she's an adult. No, she's a psychiatrist. So he wasn't a very good psychiatrist. Like in my head, I'm thinking, he's getting paid to be a psychiatrist and he's awful.
Seriously. Like she seems perfectly reasonable, a little lost. And I was like, she literally gouged a guy's eye out. Like, really? A little lost.
Well, and it's like, oh, he's going over there to gain favor with this girl he's trying to date because they were at a movie. And then, so this isn't even about the horror movie. This is just like, well, a piece of the movie I picked out that I find funny. It was like, she's like, no, don't take me home. It's because she's going to go see the parents. And so I get it. And she's like, no, whatever you do, don't come home. And he comes home to these other people that are on a date that he's going to go hang out at their house. And he's like, oh yeah, her sister's troubled. Well, I'll go talk to her, and because he knows, or I think he thinks she's home. But then when she's not there, she's supposed to be 15. He then decides to stay as like a 28-year-old or whatever he is, and so he decides to stay. And then instead of being like, hey, I was talking to your sister, I think we can help her. This is great. Like gain favor. He's like, why do you treat her that way? I'm like, what the hell?
honestly, he is the Tinder date from hell, ladies. He's the one who comes home and he then wants to meet the whole family, tells you how you're doing everything wrong, and has come to your house without your permission. He is a night. He could be the predator of this film if it went another way.
Wait a minute, there could be another remake of this movie where he is actually a different predator, different type of movie. Exactly.
Oh Jesus.
Oh man, but yes, I do recommend it. What is another? Okay, so Pete Walker, I want to watch another one. I want to kind of get an idea of how he makes his films. What's the next one I should watch?
I would go with Flesh and Blood Show. It's another of his really well-known ones. It's got a lot going on. It's a bit more. It's got some more cool kills in that one, and I know you like kills.
Yeah, I do like
so
those.
I'd say that's probably the best one. But I mean, Schizo is really popular. A lot of people like that. House of Whipcord's really well known as well. So those are probably the other three that everybody knows or is big here.
Right
anyway.
On. Okay, no, I'll definitely pick one of those up, and I might pick all three of them up by the next time we talk. So, it's interesting. I liked what he was doing. Like, so I want to see more. I want to see the genre of him, like what he's done. So
yeah, he does a lot. He did them really fast as well. So like in a very short time period, he did something like at least a dozen movies. So there's plenty out there if you like Pete Walker, and he's really good.
So where would you put it over Dagger before we go on from those? Where does it go in some of the other movies we watched?
I definitely put it over Dagger. I think for me, I have a soft spot for Alfred Hitchcock. So Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy will be higher than it for me, but that's I think partly personal, emotional. I think it's probably on par with Dr. Phibes.
Okay.
It's a very different 70s movie than Dr. Phibes, but both of them have like plenty going on. There's kind of some funny moments. There's loads to watch. You can watch it again and again. It's that kind of movie you can watch more than once and really enjoy it. Yeah. And kind of need to.
Recommended at least 2, maybe 10. We found out maybe 10.
Now that before we wrap up, is there anything else that's been going on? Anything else in your mind? Anything you've been watching?
Yeah, so I've watched something that I will recommend to people, but we'll get to that in a second because I need to look it up to make sure I say it right. But I do have a question for you, and I saw this and I tried to post it to our Facebook group, and I don't know if the question came out or if it was just like a link to their page. But the question was from British horror movies or classic British horror movies. But the question was, if you had to get stuck for the rest of your life in a horror movie like setting, like in that horror movie, which movie would you pick?
Wow. Oh gosh. Can I have a second to think about it and hear your answer? Because that's a huge question.
Well, that is a big question. So like when I saw it first, I was like, okay, like if you got to get stuck for the rest of your life in a movie, you got to pick kind of like a lame horror movie. Like, or not like, if you think about it real, like, okay, like this movie would be perfect because I don't really need to get the cards read on me, and I'll stay away from old people, and I'll be safe. It'll just be it'll be like I got to live through Margaret Thatcher's London, like or England coming up, but no, but this is like it would be a normal life, realistically, in those situations. But then I was thinking, well, if you got to go, if you're going to be experiencing something horrible, because they're obviously not mean like you're living in a time of something horrible. You have to be a part of that horribleness. Then you got to go all in. So then I'm thinking Mouth of Madness, like in a small New England town where you can't get out of anything. People, it's just crazy, like almost like psychedelic in some ways. And then it would be a nightmare, but like it would just be an eternity would feel like it's 10 minutes.
That's a really good point. That's quite cool. You know what? Actually, that's made me think. Because, so I recently watched for the first time Dead and Buried.
I found it. I have not watched it yet.
I don't want to ruin it for you, Ben. I don't want to ruin the twist. But, that is another one where the whole town, it's kind of like Wicker Man, the whole town is involved in something. You don't quite know what. And, you could be one of you could be the people in the town, and horrible stuff is happening in your town and all around you, but you're part of the world. I mean, I'd say Wicker Man, but they're in Scotland and it's so cold. Is there a tropical Wicker Man? Because because like I like that. You made me think. I like the idea of being part of the madness. Get in there,
Yeah,
do the
get
crazy
in.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like then you'd want a cool, creepy town like Wicker Man, like Sawtooth Jack's in the South in the 50s. I'm set. I can cook, and then people can be harvested all around me every year. I wouldn't have kids because but
That makes
you can just
sense.
be part of like you're part of that group world
Yeah.
of madness. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I literally was in the beginning. I like thought about this. I thought it was a great question because it was like, okay, so I would want to be, Friday the 13th, but I would just never go to New Jersey. Like, well, that takes away from that question. Like, yes, that's true, but you got to be a part of it. So like, yeah, I want to be in like just this weird written world where it's like coming to, and I didn't think Wicker Man's a perfect one too. I didn't think about the cold part, but there's a lot of like Bond girls taking their clothes off, and like that's not a bad selling point for a guy. I'm just gonna say. So Wicker Man might be a close second, but yeah, I just thought it was a good question. Like it was kind of interesting to see like where your head's at. Like I wouldn't want to be like in Nightmare on Elm Street where like things are like hunting me on a nightly basis. Like that would be where I'd be like, no, that's not cool. Like I want to be part of the hunting. I want to hunt you can hunt me like today, and then the next 6 days I'm coming after you, type of thing.
It's like have you seen the most recent Creep Show like TV series? Shudder did it.
I have seen, yes, I've seen parts of it. I've started it. I have not finished it.
I think it's the last episode, so I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a guy who invents a machine that can put you in your favorite horror movies, and he like gets put in as I think it's Peter Cushing's character from oh my mind is going blank. It's Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing are on a train, and there's an abominable snow creature in it. It's like Horror Express. And so he like gets to play out the like suave Peter Cushing having like tea on this train with the Duchess, and there's this like mystery monster that's wreaking havoc, and he gets to be the like cool guy who tries to save the day, and he ends up getting like trapped in it in a bad way. But it's kind of that like on the one hand, could you pick your person if you know you're going to be the guy who like if you're going to be in Halloween's maybe not a great example, but if you're going to be the guy who like outsmarts Freddy Krueger, are you going to be part of like the dream group? What were they called? The third
Oh
one where they're
God,
all dream warriors. Are you going to be one of
Dream
the dream
Warriors, yeah,
warriors and like defeat Freddy Krueger? That's not a bad. If you're going to be, do you get to pick your person?
yeah. That's what I was saying. You could go so many different ways with that. Like it's who knows. I mean,
That's a lot of
another one
fun.
would be like, do you want vampires? Do you want zombies? Do you want fast zombies? Do you want slow zombies?
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Or do you want ghosts? I do love ghosts. I'm all over
See?
ghosts. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
If ghosts exist, I'm not sure I'd want to specifically haunt somebody, but like I'd like a trial run, try have like a 7-day free trial of being a ghost haunting someone just for fun.
So maybe it would be like the others, like where you're the ghost or are they the ghost, and then no one knows. I
Exactly.
did
I'd be like
I
haunting
did
them.
find I did hear a comedian thinking of the ghost. I did see like a reel or something from a comedian talking about what would be weird is if ghosts. I don't remember how he set it up, but the point's still the same, and it still makes me laugh. Like, what if for ghosts, like we're the ghost, so it goes with the others thing, but then like the ghost is just living his life. And it's like, why is this guy making pizza pizza bagels at 2 o'clock in the morning again? Like the microwave's on, and like so they're freaking out. Like, why is the microwave on again?
Oh, I like that. Yeah, yeah. At my house, it'd inevitably be like, please just shut the windows. I'm always opening the windows. It'll just be just like, shut the windows, woman.
So it is really the others at that point. Like you got the locks, and every door has to be shut. So I did see a movie that I wanted to recommend, and I think I might have texted you, but I'll put it on here. It's Arcadian.
Mm.
And Arcadian is, I think you were saying over in Britain, it's in the movie theaters
Yeah, it's
now.
not on streaming over here yet.
Okay. So it came out here. I don't know if it's at the movie theaters, but it came out on video on demand. So I was able to grab a copy there. And it's Nicolas Cage. And everybody that knows anything about Nicolas Cage is that he says yes to if they offer him a movie, he's going to do it. But I think recently he's having a resurgence, and because he's had I'll blank on the names now, but he's had the Dracula one.
Yeah, Renfield.
Renfield, yep. And then he had the movie with Pablo Pascal, where he plays Nicolas Cage, plays Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, yeah. What is that called? But yeah, I know what you mean.
But but so I think he's had like a little bit of a resurgence. And I've heard some other movies of his are recently have been fairly good. And Arcadian is kind of like in a, we'll call it like post-apocalyptic world. I'll give like without it going too crazy. Like it's current times a little bit in the future, but like something bad is going on. There's monsters. And so like, but they only are at like night. And so he lives with his two sons, like living off the land and foraging and doing this stuff. And then there's like other people. So it kind of gives like you can travel to another farm's place. So it kind of has like Quiet Place. Was that the recent one?
Oh,
is that not Jim Halpern?
Yeah, John Krasinski.
John Krasinski one. Yeah, so like now it's not the same as that, but it has a little bit of vibes like that, where like you could do anything during the day, no problem. But it's like at nighttime you're like really hunkered down and you're quiet, but would totally recommend watching it. It's definitely cool. And usually when monsters get shown to me on a movie or an alien, especially aliens, when aliens get shown, I'm like, okay. Like, because everybody has their own vision of like what they want, like a monster, an alien to look like. Especially when you see that there's monsters and you hear them and all that, and then when you finally get to see them and they show themselves, there's always either like that letdown. You're like, oh, that's cool. Well, this one was like an oh, that's cool to me. Now you might watch it and be like, okay, that sucks, but it's But I recommend watching the movie for sure.
Awesome. I will do it. When it comes out, I totally will. Thank you. And if you're in the States, is it just video on demand, or are there any other ways they can see it?
It's not streaming right now. I mean, it might be at the movie theaters, but like you can purchase it on Prime or Vudu.
Cool.
So I just said someone had recommended it to me, and I was like, when they recommend something, I'm like, okay, I got to watch it. And there's very rarely am I like, wow, that was awful. So I watched it, and it was definitely worth it. So it was worth me buying the movie. It's like, nice. Which is like, sometimes when you buy a movie, you're like, no, I own this movie. But this time I was like, I will watch this movie again at some point. Like it's just kind of like a popcorn flick. Like you're not learning anything from it, but you're entertained for an hour and a half. So
that's all you need. There's especially some days that's the only kind of thing you can watch. Some days you're like, I can't think too much. I need something to enjoy. Yeah. I love that.
I guess since the last time we talked, I put this on Facebook. I was flipping through Shudder, and I saw a movie called Spirit Halloween, the movie. So in America, we have Spirit Halloween stores. I don't know. Do you guys have those in England?
We don't. It's so depressing.
Oh. I think you need to get a franchise there and make a killing. But so I turn on this movie and I'm like, this is gonna be great. And about 20 minutes in, I'm like, I'm turning this movie off. This is awful. Because it was made for, I should have seen it coming, because I think it was PG-13. It was definitely made, I think the movie Ghost Buddies, where they have all those like puppy golden retrievers when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was when you were a kid. Maybe you were a little bit too old.
I mean, no, I was like tweens, but yeah.
Yeah, but like Ghost Buddies, like Halloween, like that was probably on par. And I was like, so we just passed this. It was definitely more kid. And I was like, I wanted like the things to come. I wanted something chaotic to happen and someone's head get chopped off, or a bit of them bitten up in the face and die, something. Have you watched anything else that you're into?
So I did watch Finally a Late Night with the Devil, which everyone I know has already seen. And I liked it right up until the very end. I would have cut it. I don't want to give away any of the movie, but I would have cut it much earlier, and I think it would have been a stronger film. But I really liked it overall. But the one that I don't know if many people have seen that I think deserves more love, that I just recently saw, is Apostle. Have you seen it? It's 2018, so it's not super recent. And it has the guy it's a really popular TV show, Downton Abbey. Back in the day, it was popular. It was the lead in the first series of Downton Abbey, and then he left to make movies and I mean, he made this movie, which is great, but it's also got Michael Sheen in it, who I love.
Oh,
You
you're a
seen
big
it?
Michael Sheen fan?
Huge, and I know that he's got quite a big like fan base, but some people really just kind of roll their eyes at him. I think he's so good. He's really funny. He's in a bunch of horror movies, but he's also in like I really like him, but I
Huh.
think he's great.
I don't know this movie, I don't think, because when I put in The Apostle, it comes up with country or Western movies.
Okay, I'll send you the link for
Yeah.
Apostle. It 2018, and it basically there's in the 1800s there's a religious cult, as it were, of people who go to this island and they worship this goddess instead of the Christian religion, but they go to the island because they've been persecuted by the king. And the lead character, comes to investigate this cult because his sister has been kidnapped by them. They claim that she's trying to infiltrate them on behalf of the king and like destroy their society. He has been told by his father's lawyer, I think, that she was kidnapped and being held for ransom. And so he's trying to figure out what's going on. Do they have her? Can he save her? And the world of the cult is also like gets weirder and more complicated than he realized it would be. So you've got this kind of rescue mission, and then you also have this otherworldly, almost folk horror-y thing going on. And then the cult itself has its own weird power dynamic. So there's a lot going on, but I think they balance it really well. And it is very creepy. I think up until sort of halfway through, you're not 100% sure what to believe about what, which is quite cool. I like that. And then when you do, they hold your interest. So I
Okay.
would recommend. I will admit to people out there, I am a sucker for religious horror. I don't know why. I think it's something about the like weird otherly worldness, or maybe the extremes people go to for religion, I find very watchable. So if you aren't a religious horror person, maybe it's not your thing. But I think they do this really well, and there's a cool kind of undercurrent of power stories going on as well. So it might be your thing. But I think you'd like it. It's watchable. It's very watchable.
Okay. I'm in.
Cool. Love it.
I'm in. I'm not as big a Michael Sheen person, but it doesn't mean that he's not good. That's why I was like, no one's ever said big fan of Michael Sheen, like to me, but I don't think it lives in England. So I know who he is. I just
Yeah, I mean he's huge in Wales. He's Welsh. He's huge in Wales.
yeah.
I don't know. I saw him in
Wait, we're talking
something.
about the same person here. The guy that used to be married to Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah, he was Frost
He
versus
played.
Nixon. He was
Yep.
Frost.
He also was Tony Blair in the movie where. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
he's
can't remember.
fine. He's in a great show with David Tennant on Prime.
Yes. Yeah.
Good Omen. Good
Good
Omens.
Omens. I haven't seen it, but yeah, yeah.
No,
But yeah, I think he's great.
he is very friendly to the Welsh, because I've seen that speech by some Welsh person that he does. I think he did it in a play, and like it's a very famous speech. And so
Yeah.
yes, I wanted to make sure we were talking about the same person, so I didn't seem like a complete idiot. But yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
No, I know he tends to get a lot of side roles, but I think he always is really, really good in them, and it's very
Yeah.
convincing. I
Oh, he's
really
always
like
been good.
him.
Yeah, I just never. I never picture him as like the leading person, which is like I do apologize that I just called him Kate Beckinsale's ex-husband, like as my first reference point to him.
I think
Not
you're
any
probably
of the
not the
movies or
world.
works.
But
Like
yeah, that's
I
true.
wouldn't even say that Pete Davidson is an ex-boyfriend of Kate Beckinsale first. I would go
Oh
with something that he's done.
no.
So I feel really bad that I did that. Yes.
But yeah, he is very good. He's not the lead in this either, but he's a very charismatic supporting. I'd
Okay.
say sort of secondary lead. He's really really good in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool, awesome. On that note, then, please leave us in sort of comments and stuff. Other films you'd like us to review, or films that you think we should watch, please let us know. And of course, on our Facebook page as well, London Horror Movie Club. And we're still on Instagram. I believe we're no longer on X. Is that right?
We're not no longer on X.
Everybody, if your sole way of following us was X, I mean, come onto YouTube or watch us, because like there's so much more than tweets to what happens in this talk show. I guess
X was just getting more difficult to even handle. It was just a lot of stuff. It's just like a lot of. It got really crazy with like just what do you call it, like the spam.
Yeah.
And just like it just was like another thing to keep up, and like at least we try to have conversations on Facebook, like when we'll post something, and I'm fine with it. I like anybody posting anything, like especially there's been movies I'm like, oh, let's watch that, or like I think you watched Dead and Buried, and then another person was like, oh, I'm watching that because you watched it, and I'm like, all right, I gotta see this movie now. I haven't watched it yet, but I found it, so I've like clipped it, so I know where to find it at. But yeah, like we did the burning. Like the burning was like I like to just post like what I'm watching, and like if someone else is like, yeah, let's do that. So I hadn't seen the burning, so we did that. But like you want to just we'll definitely take any recommendations for movies. I'm always up for, especially something I haven't seen. I love going into movies blind.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, if anybody, anything you can think of, let us know. If it's something, if you're in the US and not sure if you get in the UK, put it up anyway. I'm willing to hunt stuff down, and I'm sure it's the same for Chris if you're in the UK and
Yeah.
you don't know where it is in the US. We'll find it. We're good
Yep.
like that.
We're definitely, that's the one thing I have, the skill I have is I can find a movie.
We're the generation that had to like drive to the Blockbuster store and like rifle through to pick out films. We don't give up after a quick Google search. We find our films.
No, yes. It might be behind a different box. You have to make sure that it didn't get put in the wrong spot.
Exactly.
Did you ever
check
do
under
that?
the covers? Yeah,
Did you
I would
ever
open
do
it.
We used to go to the movie store like on our bikes, and we go to the movie store, and it was called Famous Video, and because we could get there because the trails would go behind that store, and we see a movie, and it was like it might not have even been popular to us. It was popular, and we would take it and we put it behind like a movie that looks like it had never been touched for like months, and we put that movie behind that box, so that when the parents, whoever's parent was going to take us over to rent the movie that night, we would be like, oh yeah, I know what we want. And you go over to like, you know, Children of a Lesser God, which no one was getting. I mean, I don't know, just pick the movie, but like, oh, how did this get here? We'll get this movie.
I still remember doing the thing because Mom loved Harrison Ford. I'm sure you remember that. I knew she liked Regarding Henry, the movie Regarding Henry, and I took out one of there was like a Goosebumps or something like that. It was like a kiddie one. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a kid's horror movie. It might have even been like Sleepy Hollow with Mickey Mouse. And I took it out of its box and put it in Regarding Henry, and then we rented Regarding Henry. And I was like, oh, too bad. We'll have to watch this.
Yes. Because you realize now it's like those 16-year-olds didn't care. They're like, beep, next.
Yeah,
beep,
they were
next.
just like, that's done. Bring it back on time.
That was smart. Like I just remember us like hiding, especially like the group, like as you're getting like that 13, like middle school, like 12, 13, 14, like, oh, this is like a good horror movie. Like that's how we got to watch them, because like, you know, Dad's not going to be like, hey, let's watch this movie. It kills 32 people. This is great. We're like, this is great. So then you hide it behind something else that like, oh, you want to watch Ski School again, or you want to watch this again. Yeah, yeah. And then like that night you're like, holy crap, what did we get? This is amazing.
So cool. I love it. Awesome. Okay, well, until next time, you guys, thank you so much from both Chris and I. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
If you want to share your thoughts about this episode, please head to our Facebook or YouTube pages. We're grateful to Cucurbit, who made our music. Thank you for listening, and please join us next time for the London Horror Movie Club.